Hi everyone, welcome back to part 2 of our video tutorial series for today. In this next video, what I want to show you how to do is to lay down an image as a part of your sketch and to use that image as something that you can trace over. There's a lot of really great designs out there that already exist, like for example, the Onshape logo. And what if I wanted to remake that as a 3D solid in Onshape and maybe even print that out for my own use? In order to do that, you'd find the image that you want to use. And so I just save this to my computer. And then on Onshape, I'm going to make a separate part studio. So I'm going to hit the plus symbol at the bottom of my window here and create a new part studio. And it just gives us a blank, clean slate to work with. And from here, I'm going to start a sketch. And this time around, I'll pick the front plane. And then I'm just going to square up on that by clicking front on my view cube. Next, you'll want to insert an image, and so that can be found right here in about the middle of the toolbar. I'll insert the image that I've downloaded. I have to import that from my computer into Onshape. So I put that on the desktop, and here's my Onshape logo image. And so it's actually going to add that as its own tab here within the application. And so I'll just select that. And then you have to draw the image rectangle. So you gotta get a chance to kind of size it out approximately how big you want it to be. So I just clicked and dragged to lay down the image. And then you can further dimension the image to change the size of it. So I'm gonna grab my dimension tool, select the top line, place that dimension, and then I can modify that to fit within a certain size parameter. I'll make the width of this image 2.5 inches, and that should make a decent object. Currently, my image is not perfectly centered on the origin, so I can do that as well just by dimensioning from the origin to my sideline. And if it's supposed to be 2.5 inches across, that means I want 1.25 inch from the center to the edge. And then I can make that same adjustment for the side here. I just want to add a quick dimension so I can actually see what that length is. So it ended up 2.5 by 2.5, which is good. And so I'll do the same thing in this direction, dimension-wise, just to square it up on the center of my origin. Not 100% necessary, but always good practice if you can. Okay, so at this point, we can begin tracing. And so I'm going to grab my line tool, maybe just zoom in a little bit, and start to literally trace right around the lines that I already see on my image. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You can always go back later on and clean it up. You can select these individual anchor points that are being created between the line segments and reposition them if needed. You can dimension them if you need to be very specific about it. With this particular object being repeated and rounded, it kind of looks like the recycling symbol. These shapes are basically the same thing, just rotated around a center point. And so ideally, I could make one of these shapes and then use a feature called circular pattern to create the additional instances of them. So I'm going to try that on my outside ring, but I figured on the inside ring, I would just show you manually how we can go around to trace these parts. And so I just finished with that. I'm going to hit escape on my keyboard to end using the line tool. And then as I mentioned before, you can grab these points and reposition them if need be to make things a little nicer and square it up. So at this point, I'm going to jump back on the line tool. I'm going to trace one of these outer shapes and then see if I can get my circular pattern feature to work for me. So let me just do one of these real quick. To here, to there, this corner, that corner, and then down, back where I started. Very important that anytime you're making a sketch or a shape within a sketch that you close the loop. So by making that last line there and connecting it to the point in which I started, that closed the loop, and now I can use that to make a feature later on. Let's try the circular pattern option now. And so that can be found in this drop-down list. If I go to circular pattern, and there's no window that pops up specifically, but what it wants us to do is to select the items that we wish to circular pattern. So I'm going to select them one line at a time. If I zoom out a smidge, you'll see it's going to make those instances 3 times. So all I had to do was select these lines that I just laid down. If I want to change the number of instances, I can click on this value here to change them. But 3 is exactly what I want, and it's not perfect, right? It's a little bit out of sync, but for what we're trying to get out of this, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. So I'm just going to left click to actually create those lines, and as you can see, my other two shapes are pretty much enclosed now. At this point, I'm going to hit the green check mark to finish my sketch, and then I can go and make a feature out of those shapes. So I'll just rotate slightly so that we can see them actually come off of that bottom plane. So I'll go to extrude, and then I can come through here and individually select these objects. You can see they all start to pop up as they're getting selected and processing. And you can say how much you want that to be extruded by. So if I made that like a 1/2 inch, there's what my object looks like. And you might notice that they're all different colors. And that's because what happened was when I made my extrusion just now, it made 6 different parts for us within the one part studio. And it's good practice, I think, in my mind at least, to just have single parts within your part studio. So you might have multiple parts as you're designing and making things, but we can clean this up a little bit. I'll start by just going to extrude 1. And the reason it made 6 different parts is because I said new for all of that. So if I just went to add, I would then actually have to select a merge scope, which means I do need an initial part on the screen. So in order for me to do this move, it's not going to work. So let me cancel that. And another option would be to actually select all 6 parts right here on the left side, right click on them, go to Boolean, and in there's an option called union. So I could possibly union all these parts together, but it says Boolean resulted in no geometry change. The parts do not actually intersect or are totally contained. So they're not touching each other. It means I can't combine them. And so that brings me to the last point that I wanted to make is if we did want to 3D print this item, there's nothing really keeping all 6 of those objects together. So what I would do then is make a sketch maybe on the bottom of this, and I'm going to lay down some additional lines here that are basically going to form this hexagon around the outside of our shape. Go down here, this corner, going back up, and then close the loop. So I just made a really quick sketch encompassing all of that. Finish my sketch, rotate so we can see that. I'm going to extrude it. I want to make sure I grab the right feature there. There we go. I had to do it in 2 clicks just to grab the entire area. There happened to be this little line here that was kind of dividing it into 2 separate shapes, but I was able to select both of them and get the desired outcome. I'll make this pretty thin, maybe 0.1, just something to kind of hold all those pieces together then. And if I hit my green check mark, you can see I basically just added a little layer to the bottom there to hold all these pieces together. Because all these parts are now connected together, I can use that Boolean feature, right click, Boolean, go to union, and it'll union all of these items together. And now you can see I have one part. They've all taken on the color of just that single part. You can recolor the item just by right clicking on surfaces and saying edit the appearance. You could also do it by entire parts, right click, edit the appearance, or you can do it by feature. So if I wanted to just change the color of the extrusion up top there, I could say right click, edit the appearance to the feature. Maybe I'll make it green since the logo's green. And then you would have that to show for it. So that's how you can bring an image in for the purposes of creating a sketch to make a part for something that already exists. Hope you liked the tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.